told, because I was just used to being so integrated with white, Mexican, Hispanic,
Right.
all, and they told me, they was like, well, you talk white. I was like, well, what does that mean? So I was quote unquote uncultured. So, that's how I feel about that.
Okay, so I know you said on behalf of some others that have said that they did not want to bring children into this world. What about you? Are you still looking to have a family?
Absolutely.
And so how will you help them to understand, or when will you introduce racism to them, or are you going to wait till they have their first encounter, or what are you going to tell your children or your child?
The thing, oftentimes people raise their kids how they were raised. So I was raised pretty sheltered. So a lot of things I was, in a sense, it was hidden from me. So I don't know how I would do that for my kids. I feel like if they come to me and they say that they see a problem, or they feel like somebody's not treating them right, I would sit down with them and I would, tell them the history, even though that they should be learning the history. We have to teach our own, because they're not going to teach the right stories.
Absolutely.
But when the time comes, I don't feel like I'm just going to introduce it to them. I feel like I'm just going to heavily surveil them, and when the time comes, I'll introduce that to them, because I don't want them to live in fear, because I didn't live in fear.
Okay. But I hear you, but in lieu of some of the law enforcement issues that we've always encountered, because this is nothing new that's happening today with police brutality. For your black son, what will you tell your son? Will you say anything to your son about how to survive in this culture, in this society?
Well, like my mom and my dad,
without introducing them, with the race to racism. How would that?
Without bringing color into it, when you're pulled over, whether the officer is black, white, or Hispanic, just say yes, sir. Be respectful.
Right.
Of course, keep your hands on the wheel, because even if you get pulled over by a black officer, if you make the wrong move, he might think that you're reaching.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know. That's a difficult question, but. Because the reason I'm refraining from just bring it up to my kids, because I have the tendency to be very blunt, and when I say things, I just say it all. So I don't want to, like I said, I don't want them to be fearful, because I wasn't fearful when I came in contact with white people in my teenage years, and because I went to HBCU, so even now when I go to Georgia State, and it's a good mix. I learned about this. I'm a sociology major, so I learned about this theory called double consciousness. And for black people, it's like we have to remember who we see ourselves as, and we also have to see who another person sees ourselves as. So if we're walking down the street, you have to remember, I'm just a gentle black man, but the white woman that you're walking behind of, you have to think, oh, well, she might think I'm trying to attack her, so let me kind of back up. So that's kind of what black people, or black men specifically, deal with. And I don't want my kids to have to deal with that so early. But
that's even more reason. I think that I believe that we should have that talk. Because I can just remember coming up, my parents didn't talk about the racism, but we were told that we are just as good as anybody else. Not we were better, but we were just equally as good. We can do anything in this world that we wanted to do, regardless of what a person tells you. But to actually experience it, but I experienced it in my own community first, being the complexion that I am, having the features that I have.
Oh yeah.
I experienced it in my own neighborhood,
community,
right.
Yeah.
And so, but as I, even in school, you could see how the teachers would talk or treat the lighter skinned, long hair girls, or the pretty girls, so to speak. They were identified as pretty. And once I graduated, did all my schooling, got into corporate America, as I talked about earlier, you have to be twice as good as your white counterpart. They didn't even have to have qualifications. So I think it's just a subject, and I understand you don't want them to be afraid, but since you say you're a blunt person, I just think you have to just tell it like it is, because to experience it and not being, I want to say, pre-warned or kind of put out there to let you know what to look out for, because I'm feeling it now, even at my age. And it doesn't bother me, but I notice how white people look at me, or they have that threatening kind of fear in them, even with women now.
Yeah. I've noticed
I don't care
too.
how you're dressed.
Yeah.
I don't care what kind of car you're in, what neighborhood you're in. White people are looking at, they think we're going to attack them at any moment.
Now,
that ticks me off.
It does, but I will say it's also how we're depicted in the media. I watch shows. I've been obsessed with this show on A&E called Live PD. It's like they follow police officers and, pulling people over, and regulating the cities and doing what they do. And the black people that are represented on there, all of them, there are cases where people are just doing the wrong thing and they let them go. But some of them look crazy, and I'm scared too.
Right, and I hear you, because I make sure that no matter what neighborhood I'm in, though, I still lock my car doors. I still am conscious of what's around me. But you said the key word, and that was how the media is portraying us, and that's what I try to get our young people to understand. We are not what was being portrayed in the media. We are not that type of people. Of course, you're going to have good and bad in all races, all colors across the spectrum. However, why can't we be portrayed in the true image that we are, instead of the stereotypical image? And that's what I have a problem with. That's why we do what we do, to empower the community. We are showing them good things. We can talk about what's wrong all day, but let's give answers. Let's give empowerment. Let's give solutions to the problem, other than, because we can talk about what's wrong all day, but you still have to be truthful, and you cannot bury your head in the sand to think nothing is happening. So I said all that to say, I understand your point about them not being fearful, but the world is not going to show them that.
Yeah.
See, the world, and I do believe, and I do feel that people are afraid of us for our minds and what they know we can do. And I don't mean in a negative way. We are powerful, intelligent, smart, anything positive. We're just as good as anyone else.
Oh, yeah.
And even better in some areas. But why is it that you always have to show who shot, killed, stabbed, robbed, whatever happens wrong? It's always, we got to show that side of us, and people don't take us serious.
And they find the worst pictures.
Thank you.
You go to your social media. If you're the victim, if there's a black guy who's a victim and he was shot, and he is not even, hasn't been in a gang, he's a straight A student, 4.0 GPA, they're gonna go on his social media and find him with a blunt or a gun or just something. Like, why can't you just get he has his profile picture will be like a professional shot
or cap and gown from graduating magna cum laude. I mean, I'm just, and that's what I mean about, since the world is blunt with us. Yeah, I feel that we should be blunt with our children, because the world is not going to sugarcoat it for them. And that shock that you get when you realize that the world, how the world really depicts us and how the world sees us. I think it would, even just coming from, look at what they did to the president, our president, Barack Obama. Yeah. I mean, he is the epitome of intelligence, a person of color, a man of color. And he still had 8 years, and to still have people to still say about his citizenship, about what he does as a man, as a human being, as a father. Nothing negative ever came out of what he did prior to being president. They didn't have anything to go on, but he was still downplayed, disrespected, even by people in Congress and Senate, no matter where his walk of life took him. And so even with him on the campaign trail for some of the black leaders that were running in Florida, here in Georgia and other places, and campaigning for them and helping them to get elected, by showing their support. He's still being talked about like he did something wrong, but he's not the first former president that did that either. We even had the current president to do that too, but then he want to talk about what former President Obama did. So that's why the world is not going to be soft.
Speaking about the whole birther situation, Michelle Obama is putting out her book in a couple of days or weeks. I don't know, but she said in her book that she would never forgive him for endangering her family like that. And of course, he turned it around and said he'd never forgive Obama for doing some crazy.
It's always about him, right? It's and that's what I'm saying. Who does that? Yeah. Who does that? Yeah. In lieu of all the bombs that were sent out, and
Didn't even say the victims' names. I mean, these people could have been blown to pieces, and
Absolutely.
you can't even acknowledge that. And they came to your inauguration. They didn't have to. We didn't want them to.
Well, what do you think? The synagogue that was the mass shooting, and the families did not want him to come to their people's services and funerals and what have you, or even visit them at all.
Yeah.
Oh,
he wasn't allowed to
yeah.
John McCain's funeral either. I don't see a problem with that. I don't see a problem with that at all. And you just reflecting on the synagogue and even the Thousand Oak shooting, it's just sad. And I don't understand why people continue to get guns and they're not authorized to have them. Even in class, I go to Georgia State, they sent, the bomb to CNN, which is like, I could walk there.
Right.
So in class, honestly, I sit near the closest exit because I just never know. In Georgia State, you can have a gun. You can have a gun on campus.
Right.
But if you have minors in the same building as you can't have a gun there, which is like, there are almost never minors.
So when you say minors, are you talking under 18?
Under 18, because people might be taking dual enrollment.
Gotcha. Okay, I had
school.
to think about that one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
So
okay.
Anybody at any time, God forbid, can come up and shoot a classroom that I'm in.
So, but you said sitting by the door, though.
I sit by the closest exit.
But then, if they're coming in... and you're right there.
I'm getting on the. I don't know how to do it. I mean,
I hear you.
We don't have mass shooting drills. But some high schools are starting to have mass shooting drills.
And that's right.
Sad.
And they better.
Yeah, but I sit near the exit, and I can only just get myself out. I can't worry about everybody else. I'm not Superman.
So okay. I mean, I hear
I'm
you.
not gonna be that guy in the news. Or he saved everybody. It's like, nope. I'm out.
He did a heroic act. And no, but I'm like,
Kyle.
okay, but if you're sitting by the exit and this is where they're coming in.
Oh.
I mean, I'm just looking at it from that perspective.
But see, there are two. So there's a 50-50. I didn't think.
Oh, okay, right. But I'm just saying because you're going to be right in the, you know. But okay, but no, and we just kind of being funny about that though. But when you say though the minors, how will a person know? I mean, that's what I'm saying. How would they know that they can't bring it in because there's a minor? Is it in the building, in the classroom, or? I mean,
you have to register with the school so they know that you're carrying.
Right.
And I guess they would write a schedule. I don't know that whole process, but I'm pretty sure there's a way that they know.
For people that are armed to have their permits and so forth. I received. Yeah. So when that law first came about, I know we're kind of getting a little off subject, but when that law was first put out there, and even about in church, and people can have guns in churches, and but then you look at what happened in churches now, where, and even in Charleston, when the 9 people were killed doing Bible study, and other shootings that have occurred in places of worship. Yeah. When you heard about that law, what went across your mind?
I was fearful, like we talked about earlier. I should be able to go to church and not worried about getting shot because of what I believe and who I believe in and how I want to praise and serve. I don't think that it sounds elementary, but it's not fair. I feel like everybody should. I'm the type of person I feel like everybody should be able to do what they want to do. And just because you have hate in your heart for somebody because they're not doing what you want to do or they're not conforming to how you want them to act, I don't know. I get tongue tied talking about it because it aggravates me.
Well, and I know we've been kind of switching and going different areas of our conversation, our discussion here, but as we were talking about the mass shootings and the immigrations and so forth, and just knowing though how this society has really kind of just changed all the way around. I mean, it's really kind of crazy. But when it comes to our safety and our security, what do you think about the gun control laws, or should there be sterner laws? And how do you feel with the veterans that did the mass shooting the other day, and the PTSD, the mental illness? I know all of it plays a role in that. Yeah,
of course they depicted the guy who shot up 1,000 Oaks. He was a loner. I was like, okay, yada yada yada.
But they say he was a veteran, and the PTSD
that goes out the window in my eyes. I'm sorry, I could care less. You killed and you took innocent lives. One of them was an 18-year-old. I don't know if you know Tamara Housley.
Yes,
it was her niece.
Right. I heard that.
And she was 18. And at first I was like, why are you 18 in a bar? But it was like a country club type thing.
Right.
Ashton Kutcher said that his wife had planned a birthday at that same restaurant a couple of days prior to the shooting, so it could have been him.
Right.
But as far as what I think about gun control, I think that we should take guns from people who aren't everybody who's not an officer. That's my view. I don't understand why we need guns, because if nobody has a gun except an officer, what do we need to protect ourselves from?
Well, that question has come up quite a bit.
Or just
we've been talking,
get a taser or something. I don't know.
We've been talking about that during the Mind Matters with Dr. Wenzel, our resident psychiatrist, and Officer Paul Devine, the doc and the cop, and they've kind of had this several conversations and discussions about it. And to know that, especially assault rifles. Now, I do have a problem with citizens having assault rifles when they should be strictly used for military and so forth in that capacity, but not for everyday citizens, first of all. And then next to the type of gun laws, and why should people be so up in arms about stricter gun laws and then having issues with the NRA, and then them not wanting to, like the different little, I forget what you call that little piece that they put on the gun that makes it fire more rounds. I forget the name of it right now. But I'm saying, stop.
I know nothing about guns.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. That's it, Mr. Oliver.
Yeah.
Thank you. But I'm just saying, though, but why do we have a society that's up in arms about that? And I hear you saying you don't think anyone should have guns because, like in other countries, only the police have the weapons.
In Australia.
Is it London or somewhere, some other places like that? Very
peaceful
and
places.
Some places like in Japan and some other parts. Don't quote me on it, so don't call me out. But there are other places where only the police have the weapons as well. But I'm just looking at the fact, though, that even if I don't see anything wrong with you arming yourself to protect your families and your property in the event that something happens. But for you to take weapons, but see, that's why I know that there is a mind issue going on too as well. Some instances, now some instances, we can't say that everybody is going through a mental challenge or a mental illness, but we know that that plays a big role sometimes in some of these shoots, even with the PTSD. And I understand, I hear you, but I still know that there are some other underlying factors in some cases, but I don't believe all cases there's a mental illness going on. Some people just want to have their 15 minutes of glory or whatever is going to take place. Or they just get
bored or
just trying to stir. I mean, really, but you still got to be a sick mind to do that, to harm innocent people that know anything, or you need help. And this is your way of crying for help or attention. But I do believe that there are some mental cases going on. But then I'm looking at the issue of why is everyone else being called a terrorist? These Muslims and other people from other countries being called terrorists, and we're the ones perpetrating the terror on white America. I mean, I'm just going to say it.
Yeah,
you see the pictures.
Because of one act, September 11th, 2001, that one incident of somebody coming in and terrorizing America. I think that's been the only international terrorist attack.
I hear you.
But everything else has been domestic,
and it's been here in our country. And but then I know they're tired of the race card, but I'm just going to bring it up again in black and white. Why is it that America has perpetrated this terrorism on the black community for eons, for centuries? And 9/11, they want us to forget about the 400 or 500 years that we've been terrorized as a people. But they want us to remember 9/11. I'm just saying. I'm just using that as a question to put it out there. Why is it that it's like telling the Jews to forget the Holocaust, and other atrocities that have been committed amongst people or other people of color or whatever communities? But why we have to be, why we have to forget our history?
Because the white man stole the land and it's his.
But look at what was done to the Native Americans as well. They still want to perpetrate Columbus Day. I'm just,
I don't celebrate Columbus Day.
I mean, but the country, the country does. Yeah. But then we have a person such as Dr. King. We were given one day to celebrate the life of Dr. King, the King holiday, and you still have employers that will not allow their employees. They have to take personal time. If they want to be off for the holiday, they don't recognize Dr. King's holiday in January. And people have to take personal time off work if you want to be off that day. Or you got to work another day when you're supposed to be off in order to take that day. They won't pay you for it, so to speak. So I'm just saying, though, but why is it that we can celebrate a Columbus Day and some other President's Day and all this other stuff, but we won't recognize one day, once a year, for a person that was a leader in our community and help bring the world together? Dr. King just wasn't here. And so, like I said, I'm not going to keep talking about the negative, because we do like to talk about the positives and the good things that come out of that. But we still have to call a spade a spade. We still have to, because if we don't want to have the conversation, we can never have change. And if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I get kind of carried away sometimes. That's why I try to stay from behind the mic a lot.
But a little vocal. You mentioned that you, I'm going to go back a couple of pages. We've kind of get off task.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's probably my fault. It's my fault.
But you mentioned that you experienced colorism in your own communities when you were growing up. Yes. And I was going to say that I didn't understand it at the time, but in elementary school, the kids used to say, oh, Kyle, you black, you real dark. But I didn't understand it. I was like, I look just like you.
Right.
But then it kind of started to affect me in middle school. I kind of, there was a period of time I really didn't like my skin tone.
Okay.
But now you can't tell me nothing.
Okay. And I'm glad. Okay. So, you like me now. Okay.
So, and also going back to how we're depicted in the media, I would raise my kids to, just like my dad raised me, to always be very well groomed. And oftentimes when people come, they hear I'm from Atlanta, like I have family members up in Carolina and New York, and they're like, you don't have the Atlanta accent. I'm like, we don't have accents. And they're like, well, when you turn on Love and Hip Hop, they expect us to sound like Scrappy and the Migos. And I'm like, I don't talk like that. Like I pride myself in enunciation and articulation.
Absolutely.
So I just think that we need better representation of black men, black people, period, in the media, which is why I love people like Trevor Noah. I don't know how you guys feel about Charlamagne the God. I absolutely love him.
Okay.
Who else do I like?
A little controversy, but it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah.
But I give every. I meet people where they are, and I hear you in terms of not liking, didn't like yourself at one point, and that was the same way that I felt, because I thought something was wrong with my complexion.
Exactly.
I was not identified as pretty. I wasn't, because of the full lips, the nose, the features, the hair, that kind of thing. But when I began to love myself, despite what another person thought of me or thought of my people or my race, then I'm like, but then you find them trying to be more like us all the time.
Exactly.
The hair, the collagen, the stuff that they put in, the lips and the
injections.
And it's kind of like, you don't like us, but you want to be like us, so to speak. Look at the music that was stolen over the years, all the different inventions that came about, from our people, and white people took the credit for it. And until Black History, we don't hear about it. But then I do want to make a correction that I found out when we were complaining about, some of us complain about having the shortest month in the year to celebrate Black History. It was given to it. They thought it was given to us by white people, but it wasn't. It was Carter G. Woodson and another Black individual that February was Black History Month. It was through our own race and our own people. And once I realized that it wasn't given to us by society, then I came back and I started making people aware of that, so we can stop perpetrating that lie. So there are a lot of things and a lot of misconceptions. There are a lot of things that people have put on other races, and we perpetrated ourselves, kind of like the N-word. You don't want nobody else to call you the N-word, but it's okay for us to call each other the N-word.
Absolutely.
And then, or either just because it's spelled a different way, it still has the same connotation for me.
Yeah.
But, and some people use it jokingly and sparingly, kind of like the B word now.
Yeah.
Women calling each other bees.
Yeah.
I'm not a bee, okay? And don't call me one, because I'm not going with, as they say, is not what you call, is what you answer to. But I'm not going to answer to that.
I have female friends that call each other that word. It's like, and they use it as endearment. And I'm guilty of calling like my homeboys the N-word.
Right.
But I've been trying, as I get older, I'm trying to not do that because of what it means. And, they gave it to us. And even though we take it and use it in, as endearment, it still kind of looks bad that
negative.
they gave it to us.
It's still negative.
Yeah. So
And that's why I believe that we should be able to have this dialogue, because they say if you know better, you do better. But then too, on another spectrum, I know that when we're in our private settings, and I do tend to have different discussions than in public. And I can be a little bit more, I guess, just out speaking my true feelings about a subject or a topic or anything that may go on. But I'm around people that I trust. I'm around people that I love. And I know that they're not going to look at me differently or judge me or think that I'm such a bad person or I'm just being who I am. And we all have to play that game. We all wear a mask.
Well, see, that might be my problem, because I just I speak my mind. I think I get that from my mom.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Because your dad is kind of quiet a little bit, but I know
he still will speak his mind.
Right.
But he's gonna like warm up to you first. So if I have an opinion or I feel strongly about something,
but you should be your true, authentic self.
Yeah.
Because when you are not, you're doing yourself a disjustice, or you're not doing yourself a favor, because if people see you only when you're trying to say the right thing or be politically correct, then they still really won't know who the real Kyle is.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why I'm a little bit too outspoken sometimes too, but it's always been that way. And I got it from my mama. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, really, my dad was very reserved, kind of quiet, and he didn't have to say much, because you could look at the look on his face and he can tell you what he was thinking.
Exactly.
Okay. You know what to do and got us in place. But I do believe, and I do know that I got a lot of that from my mother, because it's like this for me. She raised us. You don't start anything, but you don't let anybody run you either.
Hey,
okay.
My dad taught me that too.
And it's another thing too for you. If I'm right, but I got to be right now, I'm going to speak up for myself.
Exactly.
Now, but if I'm wrong, I stand to be corrected.
And I also speak up for others when I feel like they're being
Oh,
mistreated.
yes, the underdogs. Yes.
Because I used to work in the airport, and I worked in the international side. So I was down in customs and all that. And so we would pick up people from Salvador, and they couldn't speak English, and they wanted to course check your bags, make sure you're not bringing anything like any spices or anything that you can't bring. And sometimes there was this one day I just didn't like the way that the customs officer was speaking to my passenger. So I just asked him, I was like, she's trying to understand, and could you just not speak to her that way? And he got upset with me. He said, I can take your badge, and you can be fired and things like that. I was like, that's all good, but you're not going to disrespect her when she's trying to understand what you're saying. I don't like that.
I like that.
There's a word for that. But I mean, I almost lost my job, but I mean, I left it anyway, so it's fine.
But you know what? But that says a lot about who Kyle is.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate a person like you, because it's no different than when we see wrong that we see and witness every day in society. And it's good people, good folk who don't speak up when wrong is doing. So you're just as guilty as the people that are perpetrating the wrong. Yeah. I've always, even coming up myself, and you, like I say, you remind me a lot of myself in my early days when it came time for a person that cannot defend themselves or won't defend themselves, or they bow down, or they shut up, or don't express or say whatever, speak up for somebody that's mistreating them or mistreating someone else. And I've always been the person for the underdog. I even do it today, even in the sports world, watching a game. It's just something as simple as that. If everybody's against this team, I'm going to go for that team just because everybody else is against them.
Yeah, I mean, now I don't do it all the time. Like, I do thoroughly enjoy minding my business, but if I see there needs to be some kind of something said,
right,
then I will have no problem saying.
I mean, but that's what I'm saying, and that's why I love that program. What would you do? Yep. I love that, where they have the actors and actresses portraying different roles, and I just look at it and just knowing how some people will not say anything. Good folk, not saying anything. I'm like, Dr. King, your silence is just as bad.
Yeah,
when
and
you have to speak up.
It's not even mild. It's just blatant, rude. I mean,
Absolutely.
how they
Absolutely.
do these people. I was watching one episode. Do you know the model Ashley Graham? She's a plus size model. She was actually the setting was that her boyfriend was introducing her to his parents, and they didn't like her because she was too big, and they just said she's too fat. She needs to get up and leave. And people were just looking at it like, oh, okay. And some people did say something, but I was like, you don't just say that to somebody. And
that's what I'm saying. That's how rude and disrespectful. But you know what? It reminded me a lot of the red carpet last week. You didn't stay for the premiere, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming out, Mr. Oliver, Reverend Pennye3. I just want to thank everyone, and also the young ladies, Dem Girls Productions,
Absolutely.
Belinda Keene Rogers and Angie Felton, and the movie was awesome.
Yeah,
they're going to do another
screening.
showing. They're going to do another showing, a screening, December 15th, I believe it is. But what happened? Are you going to be in the country? Or are you going to be celebrating?
I'm going to be at my graduation party.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Because
Yeah.
you're graduating on the 12th. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I'm quite sure they'll probably do it again because
Okay.
they had a sellout crowd
really
that
wanna
night.
see it, yeah.
They had a sellout. But Divided We Fall, that was awesome. And it's really reminding me of our discussion now, because the redemption part of the story, and without giving it away to you and the others who have not seen it yet, but the story of redemption. And I left my program, and I want Belinda to give me, I'll get one from her.
Okay.
Unless you,
I mean, yeah, you can.
okay, because I wanted to put it part of the things I try to save, my little different programs and activities that but the story itself, the story of redemption, there was a particular scene in that particular screening, that particular showing of two parents, the parents of a non-black person, the young lady, and her boyfriend was black. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. But that was a part of the movie. And I do want to thank my sister Belinda. You did a wonderful job, sis. I know she was tuned in earlier, and she was wondering where the guests were today, but I told her it's okay because this is what we do.
Yeah.
Guests don't come, we keep it moving, okay?
Yeah.
So, but it's okay, Belinda. Don't be so hard on them because she didn't like it. But anyway, go ahead. But we're good. But and maybe for some reason they could not make it here, and you all missed a good discussion today. But it's all good.
Yeah.
But the story of redemption, Divided We Fall. There are different scenarios in that movie without giving everything away, and they have different scenes in that screening and that movie that talks about stuff like we're talking about, the issues that we're talking about on Monday, say stuff. And then going back to what you previously said about how you have relatives that ask, oh, you don't talk like you're from Atlanta. And I don't know what we're supposed to sound like.
Like the Migos.
But everybody, not everyone that I meet, but most people don't believe that I'm from Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I'm like, duh.
Because I don't use shawty and all things like that.
I mean,
I don't even
but-
sound right saying it, honestly. But
It was something in one of the roles that I've had during my little acting career over these last few months.
Yeah.
But there was a part that was written for me, and there was a couple of words that was used, and I just couldn't. It didn't sound right coming out.
Yeah.
I think I was supposed to say "my man" or something. Like meeting someone. Seeing someone that I know, and like, "Hey, Kyle, my man," and I couldn't. It just didn't roll off of my tongue.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that I could kind of change it a little bit or kind of make it kind of flow for me.
Yeah.
And with my awesome coach, thank you, Wardell. My coach helped me to, just in a matter of moments, he was able to let me know that it was okay, because he could tell it was being forced for me to say that. And he was like, oh, let's change this. I'm quite sure it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And of course, when we got on the set and doing our roles and everything, it came out the way that he kind of changed it for me so it could roll off and flow a little bit better. And the producer didn't mind at all.
Yeah.
But he was helping me to understand, though, too, that if it's something that's not natural for me, but then I guess that's part of supposed to be a good actor, too, that you can kind of switch up and do what you need to do. But people ask me all the time, so where are you from? I'm like, I'm from Atlanta. What? I'm like, yeah. I grew up in the neighborhood.
And what do they tell you? Because oftentimes people tell you where they think you should be from. What do you
Right. It's like I grew up in the north somewhere.
I get California. I'm like, thank you.
Oh, okay,
But,
yeah, okay. But they think I'm from the north somewhere, or
Yeah.
I may not have that Boston accent either, but they don't think that I grew up here in Atlanta, in the inner city, went to public school system. I mean, it's like, what's wrong with speaking correct English?
No.
I even had a teacher in elementary school. She didn't like the way I spoke, and she had me in speech therapy class. But I didn't see anything wrong. I mean, and I guess my voice, maybe it was my actual voice
still
itself.
developing. What grade were you in?
I was in like second, third, fourth grade.
That's a child.
And I just couldn't, but I didn't understand at that time. But those things like that kind of come back to my memory now. And I just think about those days. But I did have an elementary school teacher to tell me, Mr. Wilson. I'll never forget him, Mr. Archie Wilson. And
I thought you were talking to me for a minute.
Oh, my elementary school teacher and Mr. Crystal. He was my elementary school teacher, both 7th grade teachers. Really pretty much the only male teachers that I can think about that was in my school at that time. And they were talking about names. And my maiden name is Aiken. So Pennye Aiken, I didn't sound like a black child. And they told me that.
Oh, I have that all the time.
Really? And they told me that I would, you're gonna go pretty far because your name doesn't, you don't look like you're not what your name sounds like.
Yeah.
When you fill out applications or submit something for this or this, submit something, and I still wasn't quite grasping it, but I see how important it is.
Oh, yeah.
And so, because I've just looked at stories now where people were not hired because their name was supposedly ghetto, or they didn't like it. It was just something negative. But for my teacher to tell me this in the late 60s, that my name was going to take me some places because my name didn't sound black and didn't kind of register then, but I see more and more now every day that this is how people look at your name and try to judge and tell what kind of person you are.
Yeah, I learned that people actually, I don't know if so much happens now, but people used to judge you and not hire you based off the street name on your resume. So if you lived in like on Lee Street, and you applied to Macy's at Lenox, you would not get that job because
Lee Street is
West End.
Oh, you got to be kidding, man.
They used to do it, and if you're a woman and if you tell them that you have kids, sometimes because they can't ask you directly,
right,
hey, that's illegal, but they'll say, try to make it relatable. They'll say, oh, well, I have to take my kids this, that, and other. They're trying to get you to say, oh, I have to, do something with my kids as well, and they won't hire you because you have kids, especially if you're a woman.
Well, it's no different than when you submit applications for loans and to buy homes and other needs that you have and have to be approved. And insurance companies have always had a red line for us anyway. If you live across this red line district, they know that you're going to get higher rates. Yeah. Because you don't live up somewhere else, up on the north end of town and what have you. But just even knowing, though, that people will try to determine your fate, your destiny for you. But as my mother and father taught us, that we can be anything that we want to be, and I do commend my parents for that right today. Unfortunately, I won't say unfortunately, but just knowing, though, that having that upbringing really helped me to excel because of my skin color, knowing that people would try to hold me back. Okay, to try to bring us, to try to make us feel inferior, and that's all it is, or try to keep you from being the best that you can be, always trying to hold you back or trying to discourage you. And so those are things that you do not want people to. That's why you want to be honest and upfront with your children. Absolutely. When the time comes, and don't sugarcoat it, because the world is not going to sugarcoat it. And we used to think my mom was being kind of rough on us, but I appreciate her right today.
I had a question. You talked to me about when I should talk to my kids, and because I told you I'm blunt, but I was trying to figure out what age are we talking, because depending on their age, I might be a little bit more blunt. Like if we're talking maybe 12, 13, I might say a little bit more than if they are like 5, 6, or 7.
So what you think is a good age to introduce your children to it altogether, period? What age were you think, when you first got to talk?
Actually, my dad and I didn't pay attention to it. We were at Dave & Buster's, and for whatever reason, I was sitting at the bar with him, and then there was a white man and his son. He was sitting at the bar with his kid, and the bartender, he was a white guy. He came up and told my dad that I couldn't sit at the bar, but he didn't say anything to the white man and his son. Huh? So at that was my first. And my dad went completely off, and I didn't understand. I was actually kind of embarrassed. I don't know how old I was, but now I understand. He was so upset because that was just blatant racism.
Just blatant racism. And how old were you?
I don't remember. I was in elementary school.
Okay.
Maybe 5th, 4th grade.
Okay.
But I mean, I would say I would have that conversation. It's safe to start having it maybe when your kid is in 3rd grade. I still feel like that's kind of young. I might be pushing it. I don't know.
Well, it kind of brings up the question about about the sex talk. You know, I know I'm jumping off now, but then with so much happening to children these days, and not that it's just started, but with the sex trafficking, with the kidnapping, with the molestation, you can't wait till your child is up in age to want to give them the talk.
Yeah, and also I sound really old saying this, but times have changed since I was a kid, because now there are 12-year-olds with iPhones and they have access to so much, and you know, they can make their own Tinder account and be talking to a 40-year-old. So I think that the discourse.
Yeah, you're right. Even with the social media, with
it's a different world.
Even though you're supposed to be 18 with the Facebook thing, but I know too many children that's on Facebook. But people have access to your children, so it's kind of like you don't want to wait to have that firm talk with them about their bodies and what people should and should not do to them and things like that. So, but I think with the way that society is going in this racism issue, because I do, just not jumping around again, but just going back to the movie Divided We Fall, the questions or the issues that were brought up that divide us as a people, that divide us as a society, no matter what race, creed, or color you are, all those issues come up. I'm not going to give it away all way, Belinda. I'm not going to give it all away, Angie. But I just want to just make sure that I remind people, though, but they talked about, even with parents and children, how your parents are working so much that children are practically raising themselves. Yeah. And so, you know, it used to be a time for latchkey children. We used to could do that, but now.
What exactly is that?
Oh, a latchkey kid is where you give your kid the key to get in and out of the house when they get home from school, because mom and daddy is at work and it's going to be some hours before they come home. So they used to call us latchkey children, where you would get the key to be able to let yourself in and out of the home when you get in from school, or you leave for school. Your parents are already gone to work. You come in from school, your parents are still at work. And so we were latchkey children that we had to, gosh, I'm forgetting how young you are, Calvin. And I know we got probably some crazy phrases, no different than kind of what's happening today, but I just do again want to commend, you just with the work that you have done and helped us here so much at WCEG, and just with the support and just everything that we've done as a family, because I think we're family here. And I just really can't thank you and Mr. Oliver enough for what we have done as a family. And I'm going to interview him one day to find out why he does not want me to call his name. But we are you hiding? I was just about to ask, what is your real government name? Maybe, I guess. Okay. But I want to thank Belinda and Angie again for the work that you did. I also want to even go back as far as going when we went to Augusta with that racism thing that we were facing down there.
Crazy.
But the event that we attended with Jermaine Williams and Wardell and everybody, with the Country Boys, and they're getting ready to do some other things there too with that TV series as well. But just the opportunity that we've had, and just see where we've come, how far we've come, but we still have a long ways to go.
Oh yeah. And
so, but just going back though, just not kind of getting off subject again, but I just like to understand just with what age when is the right time, period, just to have these heart to heart real talks with our people, with our children, with our young people. And because, you know, they are our future. They are our now.
Today in 2018, I'll say about 5 or 6. I still argue that that's a little bit too young, but since everything is so easily accessible today, we live in such a it's a social media based world. Technology is on the rise and it changes every day.
Absolutely.
5 or 6 is a good time to start having conversations. I will say, however, though, I always said that I would teach my kids to be able to say their body part. So if they want to come home and say Mr. or Mrs. whoever touched my, they can say that. And I'm not going to teach them any nickname words. That you need to say the biological word.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like pocketbook and all that kind of stuff.
It's a,
but that's how we can tell how our society has changed.
Yeah.
Quite a bit, because just me when I was coming up in the 50s and 60s, it's kind of like people didn't talk about anything.
Yeah.
Not even natural biological functions that happen with bodies for females, and just the stages that you go through. I mean, we just didn't talk about it. You didn't talk about, even if somebody did touch you inappropriately, Well, what was that? I mean, we didn't know that it was inappropriate because nobody ever talked about it. I mean, you didn't talk about things like that. So for us, and I do love the way that society has evolved in things being brought to the table, issues being brought to the table, even with from the racism to our own personal body issues and so forth. I just like how open our society is now. Some things are a little kind of raunchy for me. I'm not quite with it, but I guess it's just my old school and certain things you just don't talk about. But I just feel that if it's something involving you that is a life or death situation or something detrimental to your growing and being and doing, and I just think people need to talk about it. You need to bring them to the forefront. And that's why I love you young people today, because you keep me in the know, but just knowing that you have a lot more freedom now. You guys are entrepreneurs. I mean, children being entrepreneurs. And now, it's like you had to wait until you grew up and decided to take that leap of faith. But now you're being introduced to that. And I just like how just how we have evolved as a society, and just knowing that you can say and do and be anything that you want, and having the courage. People are not trying to get you to hush up. Hush child. Children should be seen and not, should be heard, seen and not heard, and things like that. I love it. Young people have a voice. You all stand up for your rights. You march, you protest, you speak up, and it's a way to do it. You don't have to be all boisterous, wrong about it or doing it the wrong way that will give off a negative vibe or a negative connotation where people don't want to listen to you or be bothered with you. But we are encouraged these days to do that. So I know I've been kind of talking and we've been kind of off subject a lot and jumping around, but I just love these type of conversations because it continues to, but it just lets me know where your mindset is. And that's why more and more anything that I can do to help, to help move along or to help do anything, when I know where your mind is, or know that you're trying, or that you want to be better, that you have the courage to be better, and knowing that you speak up for people that the invisible people that do not have a voice for themselves, and just knowing that you are you're a nice young man. You are. Thank you. Because I hate
shout out to Kendrick and Deborah.
Okay, mom and dad, y'all know this is my other son too. Okay, this is my child too. But just knowing you don't wear your pants sagging.
I went through the phase. And
okay.
2004, 2005. I went through the phase where I wanted to sag my pants. My mom, my dad. I don't think my dad really knew about it.
Okay, so you were hiding it. Okay,
but no, because he didn't know about it because my mom didn't let it go for too long. She stopped that immediately.
So what was that conversation like? Right, quick.
There wasn't a conversation. She just kind of yanked me and made tighten my belt.
And you got the message, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I went into that was in the era where the shirts were to the knees and
right, and so you couldn't tell what was how they were underneath. Okay.
Yeah, I was just trying to fit in and be cool.
Right, and you thought that, and I hear you.
And now that I look at it, it's just repulsive.
Okay, but do you know where it came from?
Jail.
No.
No.
It started before then.
Where did it come from?
It came during slavery time. That's how the white man broke in black men to let them know that the men had to wear their, I'm just going to say it. And I know people don't like to hear it, but what happens is they would break the black men by raping them in front of their children, their women, and all that good stuff.
White men raping with the black men?
Yes. They would physically, sexually assault them. Then the black men had to wear their pants down because it showed the other white men that they've been broken.
So it's like a Batman symbol.
Yes. Yeah, that they bucked you, they've broken you, and you've been broken in, and you wear your pants down. That's how they know that
I never heard that story before.
Oh, when I read it, it just blew me away. It blew me away. So people think it started in prison, but it didn't. It started actually during slavery time. And even, I know a lot of people from the islands, they have, and they have a bad, Mr. Oliver, please get on the mic. No, but really, I was going to mention from the islands, it's very bad in terms of, they look at homosexuality terribly there.
Yeah, they don't like it.
Because that's where the slaves, a lot of the islands are where some of these slaves were taken to. When they were put on the ships.
There's a term for it. There's a song. Am I allowed to say? It's like Batty Man. Is that what it's called? Yeah. it doesn't mean anything here, but in Jamaica or the islands, they call you Battyman, and that's basically like a slur, like the F word for a gay person.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
now see, you're teaching me something new here
Yeah.
today. But really the islands have they have a problem. They really shun homosexuality. Mr. Oliver, we can't hear you. I'm sorry. You need to turn on your mic. Yes, please, please.
Come on.
She just forced me. But anyway, it started in Montego Bay. That's where they had the slave main headquarters, and that's where they was breaking in the slaves. And that's why in Jamaica, the homosexual they're so against it, because it started from back then, and they suppress it so the younger generation wouldn't know about it because it was so devastating.
Yep.
So that's why they have Jamaica is so against that. So
Yeah, from the slave trade, and thank you for sharing. But that's why it's good to have this dialogue, because as I'm finding out other different little things that we think are just kind of came into place. But as the Bible tells us in Ecclesiastes that there's nothing new under the sun. So the things that we're going through now, it ain't just started today, okay? And so, and let's see, go ahead.
okay, one more thing I wanted to suggest, and the word mother effer that we use a lot, and that was originated from it was in gosh, what's it twisted? It was in Maryland, where there was breeding slaves, and they have the sons would sleep with their mother. That's how you get that word. So when we use the word, they have to think why we're using that word and understand the true meaning of it.
And
A lot of us men use it, women use it too, and call yourself that, but
SOBs.
the true meaning comes from that, because they put a bag over your face and over your mother's face, so they don't know who is interacting.
That
And
kind
that's
of like
why
incest.
When you get married here in America, you have to take a blood test to show
You're not related. Yeah. No, really. But that's, and thank you. But that's why I say, that's why we have to have this open dialogue, because some things are so hush hush. And then we just think that some things are just tradition, but you would be surprised at a number of things that we do in our culture, in our society, that's really derivative of the slave time that we do in our churches today. Just something simple as the ushers wearing white gloves. You know where that came from, right?
I have no idea.
And they put their one hand behind their back while they're ushering and doing the offering and so forth, because during slavery, the white people would have you to wear the gloves, and because you couldn't physically touch
Another white person.
Another hand, the white hand, and then they have you to put one hand behind your back, because as long as you got one hand behind your back and got the bucket or the basket for the money, you can't steal. So we have to be careful of the cultural things that we think that are
normal,
but it's really another meaning behind it. And it was something else that we were talking about. Oh, how people put their finger up when they're leaving church. You know, when you're going. That's not to say, oh, excuse me, I need to go out. It's because where the white people had the black people sitting in a certain section, they didn't sit with the slave masters, and they may have had to be excused to go to the bathroom or some other reason they needed to get up and go out of service. You had to raise your hand first for your slave master to acknowledge you. And once they acknowledge you and you had to go out to the bathroom, they give you the nod and okay you to go. So you put your finger up, because it showed the other people that your master gave you the permission to leave the setting. And so I see people doing this and tipping out, but don't you think that's drawing more attention to you anyway when you put your finger up?
I've never seen that in person. I've only seen that
Oh,
in a
wow.
Tyler Perry
Okay,
play.
but it's traditional in our cultural, in our churches and so forth.
Yeah.
But a lot of things came out of slavery that we do that we don't know. You're not on the microphone.
This is why we need to educate our brothers and sisters, and so they can understand the true meaning, so you understand your culture
Absolutely.
and the history behind the people before you. But you see, in society today, they try to erase it make you forget about it,
Yeah.
and says, oh, that never took place, and they separate the families. So this is why a lot of times you don't get the true history from your grandparents and their grandparents. You see, like in Jamaica, with our parents, we really never separated. They live together. They don't throw you out of the house. You stay until you're 30, 40, whatever, because that history is connected. You know, when I came here to America, as you're 18, you got to leave the house. That's like, I'm saying.
Yeah, I wanted to leave.
it's
Oh, but go ahead.
but
Yeah.
There, your grandparents sit you down at night when the moon is full, and they will tell you stories about their ancestors and where they came from. So you learn a lot, and you learn a lot of the herbs that they have in that grow in the
Right.
like the bushes.
Because they didn't go to the doctor. You know, you couldn't afford to go to no doctor.
And the herbs that's there, you take it, and every month your mother will give you a laxative, and you wonder why is she doing this, but they didn't tell you. Just like Miss Pennye said, back in the days they don't talk, you just do things, and you just expect to do it, and that was keeping your colon clean from disease.
Those Jamaican roots, it sounds so whimsical, like a movie or a
But
fairy
you know,
tale.
in Africa, if you ever get a chance to go to the motherland, please go.
I'm going to Egypt before I'm 30.
Yes, okay, I'm telling you.
I can't go to Egypt?
Go to
You need to go within the
Nigeria or Ghana.
Okay.
get off of the tourist
Uh-huh.
path.
Uh-huh.
When we go to Ghana, we don't go to the tourist traps. We go within the villages. We go and be with the people. And they can't afford doctors and medicines, the common day medicines. They use herbs, and they grow their healing items that they need.
I believe
A
it.
lot of things that a lot of the plants and just everything that they use to grow, that the country use as a whole, even though that continent has been raped for years, there are still your natural herbs and natural plants that help keep you healthy, because they can't afford to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, overall, and I know we kind of got off into a lot of other things, Kyle. You know, we've gone over time.
Oh, yeah. It's all good.
And,
Good conversation, education.
But yes, I do want to again just thank you for allowing me to sit in with you, and
thank you for being here.
Just for us to be able to trade knowledge, exchange. Even though we're in a different age group, you guys keep me up to date and keep me on top of things, what's happening with the young people. So when I see things, I can recognize, and I'm like, oh, because some things you guys talk about, or words or phrases and terms and things, I'm like, what in the world? Right. And people really, and you know, and it's good, but that's when Mr. Oliver was saying how the grandparents would talk to the children, the grandchildren, and teach them. And I think that's what we've lost over the years, that intergenerational transfer. That's why a lot of children don't understand racism, don't understand why things are the way they are, or they don't see a problem with things, or a problem with what they're doing with their bodies or with their lives. They don't understand it. They think it's cute. They think it's, it gets me a boyfriend, especially the young ladies. I'm just so hurt right now just seeing just how young ladies think it's nothing to be out in public half naked.
My mom used to tell me that her dad would not allow her jeans to be past maybe her knee or something, like to go up to a certain level.
All right, you didn't expose. You was a
she
hoochie.
said that
They
she
didn't
used
call them
to
hoochies, but
get
they were calling
lit up if she would try to wear a short pair of pants.
Oh, even like how people wear their cleavage out now. Oh, I'm at the age I am now, and I'm uncomfortable if I have too much showing. I have to either I wear something with a collar. I think it was so funny. My niece is like, one of my nieces is like mid 40s, and even my mother, her grandmother, told her one day she had her shirt buttoned all up here. She's unbuttoned one of them because she had it buttoned up all the way up, and just even showing this much of her neck. She just felt uncomfortable because she didn't see it growing up. You know, we didn't expose, because we were taught that only certain type of girls dressed a certain way.
Yeah.
And a lady doesn't do this. A lady doesn't do that. And I still have those. I still have that in my head right today.
I
That
think if it's done with class,
yeah,
because there's a difference between progression and hoochie, you know.
but still, and I hear you.
Yeah.
Because I'm still uncomfortable. Now I put it this way, and we'll close. I'll shut up after that. But say if you wore your shoulders out or had a little cleavage showing, you covered up the rest of your body. Or if you had a lot of your legs showing, you covered up the top part of your body. You don't supposed to expose everything, and you want to leave something to the imagination, and you want to be treated with respect. Because just think about, if you see a girl letting it all hang out, I know you're going to look. However, is that going to be somebody that you're going to want to take home to meet your parents or to have children for you? And I mean, I'm just saying.
No, you're right. You're right.
I mean, so, and you know, not that I'm putting being a wife or a mother ahead of ahead of being a woman in general, but you have to respect yourself for other people to respect you as well.
Yeah.
And so, because I look and I see and I hear men talking about, they look at it, but that's not a woman that they're going to marry. They're not the marry. You're not the wifey. You're not going to be the wifey. I put it that way.
Yep.
So but they all have the side pieces and the this and that over there, but they will not treat you with a certain amount of respect. Or okay, look what I got. They want to show off that woman or that fine body or whatever, but the sister is going to come up on the show. I'm not saying in all cases, and you shouldn't, and I think a person should be able to dress like they want to, but I think though that you should respect yourself first in order for others to respect you. So going back to the pants down, so say your mom just pulled it up for you and tightened your belt for you.
She did.
I love it. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
But
Thank you. Yeah.
And I tell one last thing, and one of my other friends, I saw her son in the mall one day, but he didn't see me. And this was when they kind of first started wearing these breeches down, and had all that stuff, hanging out, and then the underwear dirty. Okay. But anyway, I know it's gross, but you know what? I called her and I told her, I don't know if I spoke to him because he may have been kind of at a distance, but I recognized, I said, oh, that's so-and-so's son. And so when I told her later, I said, I saw your son at the mall today. And you know what? Thank you for raising him to be, to dress and to dress correctly and to be a gentleman. And she ended up telling him. And so apparently he was far enough to where I just didn't kind of go over to him and speak, but I was just observing him from a distance. And he was a perfectly good young man. A perfectly dressed young man. I know we're getting ready to go. He was a perfectly dressed young man, and he was being a gentleman.
Yeah.
He was walking around. He wasn't acting thuggish or kind of depicted as in a negative way, but I just appreciated her in raising a young man like she did. Like I do commend your parents for raising you to be a nice young man.
Thank you.
And you will go far. Trust me, you will go far.
Thank you.
If there's anything Auntie can do for you, you let me know. Thank you so much, Kyle. I'm going to shut my mouth now. Okay.
All right. Thank you all for listening and watching Millennial Talk 2.0 on WCEG Talk Radio. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And this is our last show this is Millennial Talk 2.0's last show of the year. So I will see you all next year with my degree.
Oh, wow.
So,
that sounds so strange. Thank you. It sounds so strange.
It does. All right. Mr. Oliver is giving us a cue.
Okay. And but really, we will be back on Monday with the People's Choice. We will be talking about post-election. We'll be back on Tuesday with Conversations in Education. And we'll be back on Thursday with For Your Good, our medical show. So stay tuned. We'll be back on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy birthday and happy Veterans Week. And happy birthday, Reverend Patrina.
Happy birthday.
Congratulations to Reverend Diane on your top 10 honoree remarkable women in Georgia. And also happy Veterans Week to all of our veterans. And thank you for your service. And we wouldn't be free without you. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.